Exit point. The secret within most NDEs.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed.
Exit point. What is an exit point? I have faced another stressful and difficult week, and again I needed a simple podcast. At the start of the week, I hadn't made a firm choice on the content. Sadly, today I lost my sense of humor, and the irony of last week's joke about blind faith runs bittersweet. The events of the past few days have highlighted an important topic. I will try not to overcomplicate this. I would like to discuss exit points. So, what is an exit point? When we plan long journeys, particularly difficult ones, we chart our route, and we select rest stations. These will be points at which we exit that journey to rest. Sometimes the journey will be so arduous and difficult, we chart points where we will pull over, consider a variety of factors, and then decide whether to carry on, take an alternative route, or abandon our journey. Our lives are no different. To grasp this concept, you need to be able to consider the prospect that our soul is eternal and that a lifetime is a mere blink of an eye, just a short period of time, in the grand scheme of things. With an eternal soul, a lifetime could equate to a weekend away, a holiday, even a roller coaster ride. I often hear people ask, why would I choose to endure such a difficult life? Well, why do people choose to get on a roller coaster, knowing that for the duration of that ride they will be terrified and unable to get off? Quite simply, they do it for the experience. I like to view a lifetime as a mission. Some are harder than others, in some we succeed, and in others we don't. Prior to any mission, we plan, and we train. We set goals and objectives to achieve, and prepare for that mission. We try to prepare for all eventualities, but there will always be uncertainties. When we plan our life, we build in exit points. These are events or an occurrence that will give our soul the opportunity to temporarily step out of time and our life or incarnation. We will conduct a life review, evaluate our achievements, look into the projected future and decide if we want or need to return to continue, complete or end our mission. It may be that we have achieved what we set out to achieve. It may also be that we choose to abandon our mission and start again, or choose to move on to another mission. Many people who have out-of-body experiences, OBEs, during a resuscitation, they recall meeting a being, then standing looking back at their body and being asked if they want to go back. It is not that this aforementioned procedure doesn't happen, it's that it is done out of time, and what seems like an instant decision was actually much more complex. The memory was just removed from their consciousness. During my compilation of experiences, I was shown key pieces of information, but I believe I was only shown these because they were necessary to help me piece together my mission upon return. We agree soul contracts with the people and/or other souls we meet in all circumstances. Some souls are more important to us than others, so the plan is more detailed. All soul contracts are based in unconditional love, but we factor in duality for soul growth. Duality permits adverse experiences from which it is hoped we can learn and grow spiritually. There is never a right or wrong choice, just an experience and an opportunity to learn. Sometimes adverse experiences can save us from a far more serious fate, we just don't always see it that way at the time. In early 2019, medical negligence led to an injury I was not expected to survive from. I was put into a medically induced coma during which I had multiple resuscitations and/or near-death experiences, NDEs. I use that term loosely because it is the most common phrase that people use to understand this phenomenon. I just don't feel it has been defined or understood correctly, but that is another discussion. I believe that when we reside in spirit form, we dwell within a dimension that sits outside of time, like stepping through a door into an observatory from which we can view multiple timelines for our consciousness and the cosmos. That coma gave me the opportunity to experience different states of consciousness, including an awareness of being with spirit, even going before the Council of Light. This is another discussion, for another day. This was one of my exit points. My life hung in the balance for weeks while I was reviewed, tested, healed, retrained, and sent back into my body to continue my mission. Having gone before the Council of Light, I understand that it was not completely my decision to return. It had to be approved by the Council of Light. A different discussion, and for another day. I don't want to go into more detail about those experiences just yet, because I want to focus on another soul, my son's cat, Roli. Before we incarnate, we also agree soul contracts with our pets too, and they can play a major part in our life. There has been a lot of stress and upheaval in our home over the past few months, and Roli has suffered the upheaval and disruption we all have. He became ill. We took him to the vet weeks ago, and he was misdiagnosed. One relatively minor condition was said to be far more serious, while missing the true more serious and dangerous underlying cause. This has meant that he suffered unnecessarily over the past few weeks, and died this morning from sepsis, caused by an infection which, despite being treated, still took his life. The wrong treatment and delayed treatment causing him much pain and suffering. He was admitted to the veterinary clinic yesterday afternoon, and we expected him to be home in a couple of days, but we later got the call saying he may not make it through the night. I didn't want to believe it. I am a distance healer, but I don't charge for or advertise this service. I usually do it quietly and secretly. I have also death walked on a number of occasions. When I reached out to Roli, using my psychic ability and soul projection, I found him in the light. I tried to enter, but the gatekeeper put his hand out, gesturing me to stop. A very strong and powerful energy. I was told that I could not enter. Beyond this light, this gateway, is that holding space outside of time. I was confused. Did this mean that Roli had died? It was out of hours for the vet clinic, and it was closed. My pendulum was confused, and so I tried to project again, but I could not reach him. I called the vet on the emergency out-of-hours number and checked in on him. He was still alive, resting or sleeping, and quite drugged up on medication. I discussed his condition with the vet, and I felt that his survival would be reliant on his will to survive, and a choice or decision would need to be made as to whether he would return to us. We debated what to do, whether to move him to more intensive care or rely on his will to survive. It was not certain that any further treatment would make a difference, and it meant moving him to another location. I was not happy at the prospect of him dying alone, but was reminded of a former pet who had died. My son would not allow me to put him to sleep. He thanked me for my kindness and wanted to be left in peace to pass quietly. I couldn't stay with Roli through the night, but I didn't want him to feel abandoned either. I blessed some healing codes and took them with a handmade blanket, covered with our scent, for him to cuddle into for comfort through the night. I stayed with him for a while. He purred and tried to move towards me to come home. I was hopeful that his will would pull him through. I intended to come home and try to reconnect with him for distance healing. It was gone 10 p.m. when I got home, and I had to do a piece of work that was time critical. After midnight, I fell asleep to awake at about 6 in the morning. It was too early to call and see how Roli was. I realized I hadn't done the healing session and tried to connect with him, but I was blocked. I recognized that block from a former soul who passed that night. My pendulum said he had died. I didn't want to hear it. I projected to the vet and could still sense life within the bed space. I went back to the pendulum, but it was still confused. It was too early to call, so I had to wait until 9 a.m. I tried to reconnect with him, but I felt drained. I don't know if I fell asleep again, but I had lost track of time. Then I heard the phone ring. It was well past 9 a.m. I heard my son cry out. I knew then that Roli had died. The vet said he had passed 20 minutes earlier. As my son cried in my arms, he said, "Why, today of all days? It's my birthday." My heart broke again. I nursed Roli's mother through his birth. I was the first human he had contact with, but as a kitten he connected with my son. He followed my son everywhere, and it was clear to me that Roli had chosen his human. But Roli loved us all, and came to everyone for affection and hugs. He was a happy and content cat for the main, but the past few months have been tough on us all. a family torn apart and struggling from the fallout of medical negligence. I am allergic to Roli, so I did my best to avoid him. I have my own little dog, and Roli and I separated more when she arrived. Roli would bully her, and on the occasions he drew blood, he was chased. Due to allergies, I had to limit my contact with him, and with the rehab following the coma, I had to regain my ability to walk. I also now have lung damage, and with asthma, my breathing could become irritated. Roli would try to rub himself around my legs and caused me to have several falls. This combined with more severe effects from the allergies, I had to distance myself further from him. I am sure he felt rejected and just didn't understand it was my health that was the issue. My son was his main human. Nevertheless, I still loved Roli. He was a beautiful, loving, and kind-natured soul. He still had his bonded human, and I wanted and expected him to come home. Grief is a brutal thing. It can have us question every step we took, every decision made, every tiny detail, and we can wreck our brain trying to figure out how and why things turned out the way they did. What we did wrong, what we should have done, and so the cycle goes on. The reality is that sometimes we do nothing wrong, and things still get messed up. This is not the outcome we wanted, and his death seems so pointless right now. Something that could have, and should have, been avoided. He was no spring chicken, but he could have had at least another 5 good years. Up until a couple of months ago, he was a healthy, happy cat, the victim of unfortunate circumstances. At this point, we must take stock and just try to chart a more positive way forward. So did my healing fail? I can only ask the universe to deliver an intent. The soul and the universe decide, and sometimes it is just not meant to be. Perhaps the ripple effect of this event will cascade in so many other ways. Although my son is in pain just now, he is stepping into a new chapter of his life. I hope that he will learn from this experience in a positive way. There will be a timeline where Roli survived, but he could have had nerve damage and spent the rest of his life in severe pain, perhaps even with a further disability. Maybe this was just too much for him. Perhaps his mission was complete, and this will be a turning point in my son's life. He has just turned 19, about to step out into the world as a young adult. A young man who wants to build his career and to travel. He can't remember his life without Roli. I don't know what the next few months will hold going forward, but I have to believe that if Roli chose to take this exit point and chose not to return, he did so out of love, and he made the choice that was right for him. I cannot deny him that, no matter how painful it is. The family that was torn apart by the fallout of medical negligence took the first step towards healing in a more positive way following the fallout from a veterinary mistake. I survived, he didn't. 2 events or occurrences that did not need to happen and most definitely could have been avoided. My life since I declined my exit point has been traumatic in a number of ways. I understand why I was taken out of time for healing, why I was given the opportunity to exit at that point. I also know that my failure to return would have been more catastrophic for those around me. So, if the exit point review is done out of time, why are some instances instant and others over longer periods of time? I would suggest that this happens when the way forward is less clear. The soul may need to observe their life and the people around them in order to make a more accurate assessment of whether to return or not. While Roli was admitted, I was asked several questions and given prompts that I missed. It could be that I was tested and failed to prove that I could meet the standard for Roli's needs moving forward. I have been unwell for some time, and while I am getting better, I still have a few bumpy months ahead. Perhaps it just was not in Roli's best interest to come back. Many view animals as insignificant and just property, but they are wonderful companions with a loyal and deep bond. They love unconditionally. Many humans could learn a lot from other species. Many bonded humans have no doubt been in a work environment and heard laughter when a colleague called in sick because their pet died. While they stand laughing, many of us sit back, angry and appalled by their actions. Why should an animal's life be valued any less than a human? It shouldn't. Why should their contribution to the collective be any less valuable? It shouldn't. They are living souls and deserve our respect, compassion, and humility. Roli, you are deeply loved and will be sorely missed. You had a more positive impact on our lives than most humans. May peace be with you. Till we meet again. Blessings. I thank my guides and our beloved Creator for their ongoing support, inspiration, and guidance.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed.
If you're interested in learning more about spiritualism and want to develop your natural abilities, please like and subscribe. Comment below to start a discussion. Hit the bell to get notified when new content is published. You can also register your interests on my website. Tell me what your interests are. Help me build a community-led channel. You can become part of a new spiritual community. Check out my website for further information and links. I don't have any sponsors, so any recommendation that I make will be on merit. Because I choose to work this way, I ask that, if you find value in my work, or any recommendation that I make, you consider making a small donation. Links are on this page, and the website. You could also book a mentoring session or a reading, or consider buying something from my online store. This will help me to keep on working on my spiritual mission. Thank you for your subscription and your support for this channel. Together we can achieve unity and a better world, full of peace, fulfillment, and prosperity for all. And so it shall be done. By our combined will and intent, it is done. Blessings. May peace be with you.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. I'm inspired by thirst, I'm inspired by worth. I desire your worth. I know it hurts, but something deep inside